Forward. I can't believe that time is moving so quickly, but I do have another friend of mine who is in the building and that last year was a part of prophesying over me what a network and what God had spoken, and just so much that he's been able to witness over the years that feel like 10, 15, when it literally is a year of what God has been rapidly doing. And I just want to give him an opportunity to share his own testimony before we move on today. For those that are in house, we're going to be able to have a short, beautiful fellowship at the end of our day with some more food. I know that's one of the highlights on site that we get a chance to break bread together. But I want to bring forward Prophet John McKinney. We call him PLC, the Hope Ambassador himself, all the way from California. So let's give him a round of applause.
My name is John McKinney. Many of you know me on Clubhouse and as the Hope Ambassador, and I live in Los Angeles, California. I am so glad for the first time, Dr. Stacy, in California. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm finally in the time zone. I'm very delighted to be here. Some people saw me and they go, "Are you the Hope Ambassador?" And I started talking and they said, "Yeah, I know that voice. I know that voice." I am so grateful to be here. I came into your room and it was such peace, such power, such prayer, and the room changed my life. But while I was in the room, I had been hearing about Dr. Stacy through Mr. Les Brown. He always talked about Dr. Stacy NC Grant, action, action, despite the distraction. And I always wanted to know who this woman was. And on Clubhouse in the month of January, Mr. Les Brown was presented on Clubhouse. And when he was presented, it was Dr. Stacy NC Grant. I thought, that's the voice of the woman. I want to know her. And the Clubhouse room with Mr. Brown lasted for hours. It wasn't like a 10-minute introduction. It lasted for hours, and hearing her voice and hearing how she facilitated. And just prior to that, I had been in a room on Clubhouse and she said, "I just have a question for y'all. Do y'all believe in faith-based and helping people with faith-based?" They said, "Oh yeah." "Okay, I'll stay in this room." Because I was saying, if y'all don't believe in the faith-based community, I don't need to stay in here. I was like, I love her. I want to follow her. I want to follow her. I know her leader is Jesus Christ, and this woman is not ashamed. Now, this was not a per se a Christian room. It had all kind of people, and to see her boldness and how she was unapologetically standing for Christ among all these different groups of people, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell you, I'm faith-based. I believe this is my belief, and this is who I am." And to see that kind of tenacity and boldness. And I began to pray for her, and the Lord gave me some things concerning her prophetically. And when he told me some things, I was like, "Now, Lord, how am I going to tell this woman the things that you're telling me to tell her? And I've never met her." So I'm in the VIP prayer call, this room, and Dr. Stacy is talking. And then there's Sister Carmen Herrera, she's talking. And I have been praying for both of them for a couple of weeks. And the Lord said, "I need you to tell Carmen what I told you. I need to tell my daughter Carmen, I love her. I'm about to elevate her." I said, "They don't know me." They said, "It's not about you, it's about me." And I began to talk to Sister Carmen. And she says, "Stacy, who is this? Who is this masked man?" And Dr. Stacy said, "How does he know all this stuff?" And Dr. Stacy said, "Girl, don't you know?" And she said, "What? He got to be a prophet. How he know all our business? God is revealing." And so Prior to that, I've been in a room on Clubhouse and they said, get out of our room. We don't like you. You're not a prophet. You're fake. You're fake. I'm like, what? I just said what God said. But in that room, it was a room that nurtured my abilities. And what happened later in the month of November, Dr. Stacy said, I've been praying for you. I said, really? She said, God told me that he wants to use you to help people in the business arena. You're specifically called to high-level leadership. You're called to people, the movers and the shakers, even in the business world. And he gave me a name for you. I said, a name for me? And she said, we're going to take the prophetic to the marketplace for Christ. I was like, take the prophetic to the marketplace, because you prophesy and they give you some jelly and a chicken and maybe an orange and an apple. And then I prophesied to people and they got so tremendously blessed. They said, brother, that prophecy was powerful and you blessed me so. It had always been my dream to send Benny Hinn $1,000. And because the Lord blessed me, I sent him $1,000. And they didn't even buy me a Happy Meal. And Dr. Stacy was like, no, we're stopping that. You are a prophet of God. You're a high-level prophet. Now, nobody's ever told me this. And she said, they're not going to pay for the prophecy. But what God told me you are a life coach. And especially to people in business arenas. And I was like, really? And I said, I've never heard of the term life coach. And she goes, don't worry, we're going to make it popular. That's what we're going to make the prophetic life coach, prophetic life coach. I said, I've never heard of a prophetic life coach. She said, don't worry about that. It's something new. The world needs to know. God revealed it to me, and that's what you are. And so there was a woman came into the clubhouse. She knew me. She said, what in the world is a PLC? I said, Dr. Stacy, somebody's in the room. They want to know what a PLC is. And so Dr. Stacy said, let me tell you what a PLC is, honey. And she said, it's a person that has the spirit of the Lord and a true spirit of prophecy, not out here trying to beg for money or manipulate people, but has a real gift and has been given it for over 20 plus years of his life. And we're going to take it to the marketplace by allowing this man of God to prophesy freely, no charge. And if the people would like his life coaching, because not only does John McKinney prophesy the word of the Lord, but he is a person who follow-ups with tapes, and she branded the McKinney way. I was raised in a family with a woman of God who was a prophetess, and she recognized the gift of flowing in me at a very early age, and my mother began to train me in the prophetic. But I never had anyone to embrace the prophetic over my life like Dr. Stacy. Let me tell you, this is life-changing. And a month ago, Dr. Shirley Clark, who knew me when I was a member of the Potter's House, came into Dr. Stacy's room. She heard me giving thanks to God and thanks to Dr. Stacy for showing me direction with my gift. And she said, Dr. Stacy, can I just say something to John? I know him from 20 years ago at the Potter's House. John, I am a life coach, but prophetic life coach fits what you are. And that term is what you are. There's no other way you can say it, because God uses you prophetically. And we need people like you, John McKinney, in the business arena, talking to business people, telling them what directions. And I was like wondering, I said, Lord, what is a prophetic life coach? He said, there was a prophetic life coach in the Bible. I said, really? And he said, my prophetic life coach was told by a leader to find a man that can interpret my dream. And the king didn't tell nobody what the dream was. And he said, if you can't interpret it, I'm going to kill all of y'all. Because if you hear from God, you should know what I dreamed. And one guy said, I just got out of prison. There was a guy in prison. He can interpret dreams. And they brought him up out of prison before the king. And he said, King, this is the meaning of your dream. There will be 7 years of lack and 7 years of plenty. These are the 7 years of plenty. We must collect all the grain and build silos. This is what God wants you to do. And the king said to the young man, I want you to be in charge of it. His name is Joseph. So the term prophetic life coach is in the Bible because God told me Joseph was my prophetic life coach. There are many life coaches that were prophets in the Bible. They were once the advisors for the kings, for the royalties, for the leaders. These people would give them prophetically what God would show to them. And I thank God for Dr. Stacy branding, speaking over my life, and now I'm walking into what I've been doing for over 20 years. I just didn't know what it was. And I would just say, God showed me some things, and people look at me like, you don't know what you're talking about. Then 3 months later, I see it on television. 3 months later, I see it on a movie. But it's prophetic, and it's all glory and praise to God. Without this woman of God, I wouldn't know. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And we're looking to establish some things to train and teach others the value of the prophetic and walking in it humbly, like my mother taught me, and to share this gift that God gave me. And many of you out there, you have the gift, but not to do it for money. And I've been doing it for 25 years and got 2 or 3 hamburgers and a jar of jelly. And one sister told me, she says, brother, you have blessed me. My business is blessed. And she said, I just want to give you something. I just want to give you something. And she gave me $10. But now in my background, I was in corporate sales. 25 years ago, I was making 6 figures. So I never worried about, you don't got to give me nothing. No, I have my own job. I'm good. And I just did this out of love as a free will. But to know that you can bring something to a marketplace. And I was worried. I was in a coaching class, and I was worried that I can't prophesy. I have to just do coaching only. I can't mix the two. And Dr. Stacy, by the grace of God, God gave her, no, that's who you are. You take that into the marketplace and you share with people in the marketplace, the prophetic word of the Lord, and you also life coach. And that's what we're in the process of doing. And I'm so grateful because this has been a life-changing experience for me. In all the years I've understood who I was as a prophet, I always was ashamed. And so I'm meeting people here. Even on my badge, I have John McKinney PLC. And so what is that? Is that a corporation? I said, no, it's what Dr. Stacy said I am. I said, Dr. Stacy calls me her PLC. And they said, what is that? I said, it's a prophetic life coach. I said, haven't you heard of it? They go, no, I've never heard of that. I said, well, I'm here to tell you, Dr. Stacy said it's real. So sometimes you don't know your value. When my mother passed, she was a powerful prophetess. And my sisters and brothers told me, John is not a prophet. He around here trying to mock mom and pretend he's some prophet. Talk about God showed him. God ain't showed him nothing. You're a prophet. You're the youngest kid in this family. You can't prophesy. And John up there shaking and speaking in tongues and trying to prophesy upside down words, don't make no sense. And I'm like going, Lord, they don't really like. He said they didn't like your mother. Well, how are they gonna like you? People don't like truth. And he said, you're not called to everybody. But although I've been doing it for over 20 plus years, the Lord has now laser focused the gift to a market specific that he has called me to, which is the business market, specifically like Joseph, to prophesy his word over these leaders. And Dr. Stacy said to me, she said, brother, you're called to high-powered leadership. Really? She said, a lot of people up here, they don't even have a business. They're not even concerned. They're waiting on a Cadillac in a sense. You're going to get a Cadillac. You're going to get a Cadillac. She said, that's not your group. You're called to leadership. And one of the most powerful people that God gave to me in my entire life is Dr. Stacy N.C. Grant. Because there are so many talents that I have. Wednesday night, if you were watching, you saw me on stage with a pair of red pants on as a comedian. I can sing. I can do dramatic presentations. I'm an actor. But Dr. Stacy said, you can be all of that and still be God's prophetic life coach. This is the only person, one of the few people besides what many of you don't know, I lost my dear mentor. He was 89 years old, Bishop George Dallas McKinney of San Diego, California. Besides him, this is the only person that accepted all the hyphens that God gave me. Everybody else only wants me to be one thing. And like a brother at my church told me, he said, what are you doing? We were at a prayer meeting. I said, I was prophesying to her. He said, you can't be a comedian and prophesy to anybody. Boy, stop playing. What are you doing? And I said, well, the Lord told me that. He said, I don't believe in prophecy. Don't tell me anything. God's like, that's not real. And I'm like, well, bless your ministry, brother. And but I'm just glad to be here. I'm honored to be here. And I thank God for, if you listen very closely, the prophecy came to me months before I ever spoke to Dr. Stacy. Months. And I just kept hovering over it. But if you listen to her very closely, this woman of God is called to raise up the next group of millionaires. I'm telling y'all now, you can write it on your calendar. I'm sure gonna be one. And I'm going to pour money into this. We're gonna be downtown. Because when God get through blessing me, I'm about it. Just like Bishop Billy Bob, if you saw him Wednesday night, everybody come to the conference gonna get a gold tooth. And I just want y'all to know the last word. Pimp slap the devil every day. Pimp slap the devil and send him on his way. Pimp slap the devil and take back your stuff. Pimp slap the devil. Tell him, Satan, that's enough.
Oh my goodness. Let's give a round of applause to my PLC, John McKinney.